Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to a very important, very special edition of Social Justice Wednesday. So special, in fact, that it could not even wait until Wednesday. I am your host, Social Justice Jessie, your very favorite woke person ever, and also the one individual you know you can always come for the truth on social justice. That's right, truth right here, truth and justice all the time. Those are the things I care about, truth and justice. So like, if you're alive, you'll know that we've kind of been protesting a lot over like the past, I don't know, at least 3 days, maybe more like 5 or 6. It's really hard to keep track. The days just kind of blur together. But anyway, since like pretty much a couple days after the death of George Floyd, another unarmed black man killed in police custody by the police again. Why am I not surprised? And we have taken to the streets to protest this horrible injustice because, as it is coming to some people's attention, finally, there are no safe spaces out there for black men in this world, and yet the entire world is just one big safe space for white men. Does that seem fair? I didn't think so. So yeah, we are out there protesting. And now here's the thing, like some people, it's come to my attention that not everybody understands what we the protesters are trying to accomplish. It is very clear to us what we want. I mean, duh, we want justice for George Floyd, and we want police reform and stuff like that. That's like pretty specific. I don't know how you could get even more specific on that, like obviously, but I get it. It's not written down for you, so it's a little complicated. Well, let me clear all of that up for you right now, starting with the first piece. So it turns out one of the reasons for confusion is that usually when we take to the streets to protest something like this, it's because the police officers who participated in such a horrible event are not brought to justice. They are not. They are oftentimes not even charged, certainly rarely convicted of any crimes in these situations, and many times don't even face any minimal, if any, retribution or like consequences from their own police department. So it is up to us to get that, right? It is up to us. Now, in this situation, some people might be saying, well, why are you protesting now? I mean, so far, all the officers involved were fired. The one who actually did it is being charged with third-degree murder, and the other officers who are around are being charged with accessory to murder. That sounds like you're getting what you want, right? Wrong. I mean, God knows when this trial's actually going to happen. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend anybody who doesn't believe in God. I shouldn't have said that. It's just like an expression I'm used to saying. I'm trying to change my habits, so please forgive me for that one. I will try to be better for you if you guys can work with me while I try to be better for you. So thank you. I apologize again to any atheists or polytheists that I might have offended by invoking that word. So just my sincerest apologies. And anyway, okay, back to the video. All right, so the point is that whenever these trials happen, let's be real, the police officer who did it and most of the ones involved were white men. They're all getting acquitted. That one Asian American guy will probably get acquitted just like by proxy, you know, because he's with the white guys. So these are the things that happen. Lucky him, I guess. Like, he's still participating in racism, whatever. Like, you kind of lose out on your status there, guy, when you sell out. But whatever, that's like a totally another topic. Anyway, the point is, it's a foregone conclusion. These police officers aren't going to have justice. We already know they're going to get acquitted. So we're preemptively protesting the acquittal that is obviously coming for the officer who murdered George Floyd. Okay, so let's just get that one out of the way right there in case you're confused. All right. Also, additionally, we don't actually need any demands to be outraged and want to protest. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of years of systemic oppression of black people, certainly hundreds in this country, and then like thousands everywhere else in the world. They've just pretty much always been oppressed since forever. You can just ask any black person you meet, they'll tell you. It's important that you listen to them too and like actually hear their stories. Like, don't take it from me, take it from them. I'm only here as a mouthpiece because I have actually like listened and collected stories from the people I know or word of mouth. The point is, like, I know what's up. I know that this oppression exists, okay, because I believe it and you believe me because we're here for truth, right? I know that this oppression has always existed and that it continues to exist really just about the same. Like, it honestly hasn't gotten much better since slavery. Let's be real here. So you don't need a reason to go protest. We're allowed to. Like, it's a free country. I thought it was anyway. Dictator Trump. But like, the First Amendment is just as important as the second one. Psych, it's more important because it comes first and it's actually relevant. The second one should just go away entirely because guns are evil, but I digress. The First Amendment is the first one for a reason. Peaceful protest, it's allowed. We're allowed to go be outraged. We're allowed to yell and scream on the streets if we want to at the things we're outraged about. And let's be real, because of the oppression of the Black people in this country and the world, I think we should all be out there being outraged. We don't even need to ask for anything. We just need to be out there showing how outraged we are, because that outrage has to go somewhere. And if we're not allowed to express it in these healthy ways, it just gets internalized, and then we just keep, propagating this racist system, and it's really sad. So second of all, you don't even need these demands because we should be outraged, and just protesting for the sake of protesting and being publicly outraged for the sake of being publicly outraged sometimes is enough. Okay, but finally, in case you're still not convinced, because you know what? I hear you. One of the things is that we're not on the same page, people say, because there have been no leaders of this movement. No one's taken the forefront, like a Martin Luther King Jr., to say, these are our goals. This is what we want. Unify people, spread a message, be a liaison between the people out there protesting and the governments that we're trying to change and reform. So I'd like to very humbly put myself forward and nominate myself as the leader, not the one that you deserve, but maybe the one you could use right now. And I do this again with all humility. Is I don't want this attention or this power or this spotlight. It's not really even up to me to do it. I mean, but I just think that I'm the best person for this job because again, I have listened. I have been a student of social justice for as long as I can remember, and I know all the important things about being just and making reforms. And I thought maybe as an ally who is still a woman, which makes me a bit of a minority. I know I'm not really oppressed because I'm still white, but as an ally and also as a white person, maybe I could just be that liaison that everyone needs, and maybe people will listen, maybe people will finally listen. They won't listen to people of color. Maybe they'll listen to a white person. So I think, just again, with all humility, maybe I am the right choice, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about exactly what we need to get the reforms that we wanted. I made a very simple list of demands that I think all the protesters should adopt. We should put it on signs. We should write to our Congress people, and because these are the changes that we want, that we need, and that we deserve. Okay, so one, and this is very, very important. One, okay, police officers shall never again interact with any person of color for any reason ever. And yes, that goes for police officers who are people of color as well. Like we discussed with the Asian American one, they're just, contributing to a racist system. Okay, so no police officer should ever talk to, approach, interact with for any reason a person of color ever again. And that carries a minimum 5-year jail sentence. And I mean that, realistically, that's for a minor infraction, like saying hello. Like if you're a person of color who's a police officer, saying hello to a person of color, that's we're talking minor infractions. If you get up to things like a white cop, bugging an innocent black man and asking him for his ID when he's done nothing wrong, that's going to be a life sentence. And when we're talking to actual levels of brutality, I mean, I think it's a little, I'm willing to compromise and not ask for capital punishment on this one. I'm willing to say we'll forego the death penalty in these instances, in the interaction with people of color, for anything less than a capital crime. Now, if a unarmed black man gets killed in any way for any reason while interacting with cops, now capital punishment has to apply because it's only fair. Okay, I think we can all agree on that. That's pretty easy. And again, I'm not willing to compromise on the final bit, but I am willing to pull capital punishment. I'm willing to make that concession. It's a big one, but I'm willing to make it just to make this more palatable for everybody. I think it's really, really important. Okay, so number two, okay, and this is also important, kind of related to one with all this police reform. Okay, all white police officers effective immediately need to hand in their badges. Turn in their badges and just resign. The world doesn't need you anymore. So that should really lessen the issues, of the interactions from number one, and hopefully do away with this need for capital punishment altogether, because hopefully we're not going to have these interactions. That's the idea, is to not ever have this ever happen again, right? We can only have justice for George Floyd if he never dies in the first place. So how do we do this? We just get rid of all the racist cops. So more on that second demand, if you are a police officer who has ever been accused of racism or brutality, now you don't have to have been convicted of this, just accused, okay? Because as we know, the police department allows us to cover these things up, not even, indict or press charges on their own, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't even need to have been indicted formally. You just need to have been accused. If you're a white police officer who's ever been accused of racial insensitivity or of police brutality, you need to take your own life. And again, it's only fair. If you have contributed to thousands of years of suffering by an at-risk community, it is only fair that you remove yourself because you have no place in the future of society. The future of society is for people who accept each other as they are, not for bigots and racists. So you should just, we'll accept under petition and pending review. We will accept appeals to just be excommunicated and move to a different country. We'll consider that, but realistically, I'm not sure it's right. It's like morally or ethically right to send your racist ass to a different country anyway. Okay, so I think that one's pretty easy to swallow. I mean, we're already getting rid of white people from the police force entirely. We're already keeping them away from people of color. I think this is just the logical next progression. I don't think anything I've said here is too extreme or demanding. I think it's just really making it clear, the kind of world we want to live in and that there's no place for racists in that world, quite literally. Okay, so number 3. All right. This is really relevant to now, but it also will apply, in the future when these protests aren't happening, because there's been a lot of talk about the looting and the vandalism and stuff like that. And for the most part, violence, vandalism, stealing, that stuff's against the law and it's wrong. But now here's the thing. You have to understand the nuance of a situation. You have to understand why this outrage exists. And the reality is that, I think that we need to just accept what's happening out there as long as and only if the people looting or vandalizing or, doing anything that may or may not incite violence are proclaiming Black Lives Matter. It should be written on their clothing. They should be saying it, pretty often, or have a sign or something that makes it very, very clear that they support Black Lives Matter. And so they should say that out loud, definitely. And if they're doing that, then whatever they're doing is legal. You shouldn't harass them or stop them because obviously they're doing, and that just, again, extends outside of the protest. If somebody is proclaiming Black Lives Matter, let them do whatever they're doing. They're obviously justified in doing it in the best interest of racial equality. And that even goes to, by the way, if we're talking about people are saying, oh, well, their Black-owned businesses have been looted or destroyed, and that's so terrible and so unfair. Now, if that business is being looted or destroyed by another Black person or by a white person who's an ally and proclaiming Black Lives Matter, then I think we need to allow it and be okay with that, because realistically, look, if you're a Black person and you own a business, even if it's a small business, okay, you are not the person being oppressed. You have bought into a racist system and you're just perpetuating it, so you are part of the problem, okay, Uncle Tom? I think that's pretty, obvious and pretty easy to digest. I think we all need to loosen up our understanding of what the law means and realize that if you're doing it in the greater cause of social justice, it should just be allowed. Okay, so right there, number 3, if you are proclaiming Black Lives Matter, you can do it. Now, because of the prevalence of people, proclaiming Black Lives Matter, I think we can pretty much all be on board with this one too. That seems fine. That seems totally reasonable. As long as it's for a good cause, we need to allow people to express this pent-up rage somehow. And if we're not letting them burn down empty businesses, it has to go somewhere. We can't ask people to keep that stuff inside. It'll turn seriously violent and we'll have even more casualties. So I think we just need to let people get that out of their systems in the name of social justice in order to actually actually go back to a civil society without this level of unrest. Okay, so that's important. Again, I think it's really uncontroversial. So let's move on to number 4. Okay, then number 4, and this one again, really totally obvious. Any business that doesn't somewhere on their premise post Black Lives Matter needs to officially immediately close. Just close its doors. Done. Those people can never have a business again unless they're willing to make reforms and make a public apology and then put Black Lives Matter in their new business. But any business that doesn't publicly proclaim it, preferably if they have social media, they should post it on their social media as well and post it somewhere in their business establishment, Black Lives Matter, or they should shut down. If they don't have a public office or their primary online presence, it must be posted on their webpage or their social media, or they should be closed. Again, this is really, I'm not even spending time on this one. This is such a softball one. I think this is just common sense at this point. All right, but that brings me on to 5, because I think this one's a little bit more, it's just it's really a logical progression from number 4, but I think number 5 is really the most important because it really takes us to the individual level. And that's very simply, if an individual fails to at some point proclaim Black Lives Matter out loud and all over their social media, so if any social media platform they have, they should be required to post Black Lives Matter on it somewhere, and especially if they don't have social media, they should be obliged to proclaim it in their daily life, especially publicly. Failure to do do so, if anybody does not do this, they need to have the word racist tattooed on their forehead. I am so sick of living in this world with these invisible bigots everywhere walking around acting like they're allies or they're fine or just not being held accountable as they just casually profit from institutional racism every single day. And look at this, even my male cat right here. You should know better, Lando, because you're mostly black, but even my male cat is here causing problems, and I just feel personally attacked by him. That's not cool. Anyway, so where was I? Oh yes, everybody in those situations need to have the word racist tattooed on their forehead. So we as society can go around and actually know like who we're safe from and who we're not. Again, I am just sick of this insidious racism popping up everywhere. I want to know if you don't support Black Lives Matter and you don't say that out loud so people understand that you vocally support it. If you are silent, you are complicit and you are racist. Okay. So if you're not out there posting about this all the time and joining the social justice movement, that means you're against us, because those are the only two stances that are allowed like in society. Those are realistically the only two stances you could have. You're either 100% all in for social justice and all in for sweeping reforms to the police department and all in for Black Lives Matter, or you hate black people and accept them dying and are okay with innocent black people dying. Those are the only two choices, okay? So I think it's pretty, again, let's just put it out there. People talk about that too, how evil it is that you don't know when a racist could pop up. Well, let's fix that problem, okay? If you're not actively out there being an ally, you're a racist, get it tattooed in your forehead so we can all be safe from you. But a little flip side to that, because it is harsh and we don't want to be overly punitive here. So we want to make sure that there's, positive things, positive reinforcement for people doing good as well. So under that same demand, I've included any individual who tattoos BLM, that stands for Black Lives Matter, on their forehead should automatically, provided they're a person of color, become a deputy in a police department, a sheriff's department, because they have clearly earned that. They have demonstrated their merit as a human being, and they have earned a position in our new police force that respects people of color and doesn't harass them randomly on the street. Now, this is also the only way for a white person to still be involved in law enforcement if they tattoo BLM on their forehead. Now, of course, we're not going to let them back out in the streets, because they're obviously, every single white person, if they're made into a cop, given enough time, is going to kill an unarmed black man, and we just can't have that. So if you're a white person who has tattooed BLM on your forehead, you are allowed to be a police officer, but you're going to pretty much be relegated to like traffic tickets, administrative duties, and like janitorial stuff. So you're still helping, you're still being part of the cause and contributing to a better tomorrow under our reformed new police system, etc., etc. Okay, you're just going to have a different role, one where you're supporting people of color instead of being in a position to tear them down like you have in the past. Isn't that right, Lando? Okay, so those are my demands. And again, I think that it's really reasonable. These are very basic. These are very just out there, on the nose, it's going towards our ultimate goal. And now people say police reform. Not all of these sound like they're for police reform. How does allowing people to vandalize businesses if they shout Black Lives Matter, how does that contribute to police reform? I said our ultimate goal. I understand these protests are directly about police reform, but the ultimate goal of the social justice movement is to make sure that white people suffer as much as minorities have classically suffered. People of color have suffered in the past. Okay, it's not just solely about the police. It's not just the police who benefit from institutional racism. It is all of us. We are all guilty of benefiting from racism, which is why we have to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, especially as white people. We have to put our lives at risk. We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable positions, and we have to give up more and more things so that we can actually level the playing field and have the same amount of suffering that has been, for generations and generations and generations entrenched in the communities of people of color. So we actually sat down with a team of scientists and we assessed, we actually put a quantifiable amount on the suffering that people of color have endured throughout history. And we will not stop and we will not be satisfied until the entire white population has collectively suffered that same amount. But now here's the catch, right? We realize, come on, it's been years and some of those people who are long dead will never see justice. So you have to add interest. And when we added in a very modest amount of interest to that suffering, we realized that white people actually need to suffer for the rest of their lives until the end of time in order to properly balance the scales. So you've heard it from me in case you haven't heard it somewhere else first. No, we will never be satisfied. We will never never get what we want. We don't actually have an end goal other than making sure white people suffer. So until every single person in power is a person of color, and the only white people in remote positions of power supporting people of color are allies, and that those people are running the world and making sure that it is a fair, equal, and just place for anybody of minority status, and that it is absolutely terrible for white men because they deserve it. All right? So I don't think I should be the leader of this movement. I don't think that, I deserve it by any stretch. I don't deserve anything. I'm just a white person. I deserve to suffer until the end of days. But I humbly accept that this may be the best way forwards. This may be the only way to actually get what we really want out of these protests, which is understanding that all Black lives matter. They matter more than every other life. And that's really the end of it. It's not even about understanding or internalizing what that really means to say Black Lives Matter, or what it really means to balance the value of a Black person's life against the life of any other person. It's really just a thing to say so people understand that you're on the right side. I mean, let's be honest here. This is it. We've already discussed that the only sides are people who are fighting for social justice and Nazis. Right? People who believe in progress and the rights of minorities, and bigots. So those are really your only two sides, okay? So again, this whole proclaiming Black Lives Matter, tattooing it on your forehead, posting it on your social media, which I encourage every single person to do, including the tattooing, whether or not you want to be part of the police department, it's still a great way to counter all of the racists that are going to be equally branded out in the world. And we want to, show our support and our solidarity just as proudly as the bigots need to be, shamed publicly, etc. So the point I'm trying to make is just proclaim that phrase proudly, post it everywhere, because it's not even about Black rights. It's not even about police reform. It is not even about justice for George Floyd. It is 100,000% about making sure that people know that you are on the right side. Because if you're not on the right side, then you're a Nazi. And that's all I have to say. So thank you for tuning in for this very special broadcast so you can learn how to be a better ally. And I hope you're all as open-minded as I am so that you can listen to every single thing I say and agree 100%, because obviously I'm right. Thank you. All right. Well, goodness, my hair is dying under there. That was Social Justice Wednesday a day early. I know she doesn't usually appear publicly anymore. So if you miss Social Justice Jessie for just $1 a month, you'll be getting, 3-4 social justice videos over on my Patreon. So you can totally go check that out if you love Social Justice Jessie. If you're confused about why this video was made or what it's about, then you just don't get it, and I'm sorry. But let me direct you to the definition of satire. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Press that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss new content from me. I've got scathing commentaries as well as fun sketches coming up. And like I already mentioned, my Patreon, for just a small amount a month, you're going to get tons more videos from me. So I highly recommend people check that out if you're enjoying this content. Also, follow me on Twitter at Jessie Milestone. Follow me on Instagram at Mindless Entertainment. Everybody who maybe in a protest zone, either outside protesting, inside, whatever, just everyone be safe, and God Empress out.